First of all, thanks everybody for showing up here on a Tuesday afternoon. And this webinar is a follow-up to the Monsters of Marketing event that we put on last Tuesday on March 4th. Some of you were able to make that, some of you were not. And I always planned on doing a follow-up, because as I mentioned at the event, what I covered at the event for about 15 minutes or so really is probably about 4 hours worth of content. So I wanted to take some time, go over it in a little bit more detail. Here I'm not going to go through like the exact presentation, but we're going to go through the slides, explain a little bit more, and then answer any questions that you might have on any of the particular topics. A couple of things. I'm going to be doing a weekly webinar now. This is kind of the kickoff of that, starting next Tuesday. So every Tuesday, same time, 12:30 Central, I'm going to pick a topic and go over what I'm actually going to be talking about and walk through, probably 30-40 minutes, maybe a little bit longer on some topics, and then answer any questions you might have. But they'll be very specific, so they might be over a website or display ads or Facebook or LinkedIn. So very, very specific single topics. That way we can kind of get those in some digestible information in digestible format. So I apologize if you hear a train in the background or any dogs barking at any particular point. I'm at my home office today recording this and on this live webinar with you. So let's get going here. Let me know if you can see my screen and hear my voice. I should have checked that in the beginning, but you should see the webinar presentation with me. Again, this is Todd McPartlin with iMarketing Leader. You should be able to see my book, and then now you should see a picture of a baby with online marketing. Can everyone see that? Okay, let's get going here. So this is just a funny picture we found. This might be you when it comes to online marketing. In the presentation, we were talking about a fictitious bakery, Susie's Bakery, so you'll see examples of that throughout. I'm not really going to go through her story, because if you were there, I don't want to bore you again. But I'll touch base on how she did that, but it won't be as of a polished presentation on Susie's Bakery. So if this is you, this format and hopefully future weekly webinars are going to help get you to understand a little bit more about online marketing and let you know it's not some magic show, some man behind the curtain. It's actually just takes time. Everything we talk about takes time here, maybe besides pay-per-click. Everything is, just finished reading the book called The Slight Edge. Everything is it takes time to implement, and it's the little things that you're going to do consistently over time that will make the biggest difference. So in case you weren't at the event, we did a joint event with Brazos Monthly and Bryan Broadcasting here in Bryan College Station, and it was a great time, and we hope to do future events. So let's get going on here, because I want to be very aware of people's time. It's the most precious thing that we have. So this was the last slide, one of the last slides I actually showed, but I brought it up here in the front because I want to kind of tell you where we're going to go, and then we'll go through these different things. So this was, how did Susie's Bakery actually dominate their online presence? And we talked about passive versus active types of marketing. So on the passive side, she did display ads, which are the virtual billboards. We'll go, obviously a lot more deep into these. Targeting and retargeting, following your audience to stay around, stay in front of them, to be top of mind. And on the active side, for the marketing and branding. So again, if people weren't there, the whole topic was branding your business online and in print and on the radio. So I had the online portion of it. So that's why a lot of things you'll see in here are on the branding piece of it. So she did PPC, pay-per-click, specifically Google AdWords, organic, unique and relevant content there, local listings, and then reviews and reputation. And I mentioned this when I was speaking as well, that reviews and reputation actually straddle the passive and the active. They're actually the foundational piece of these. And next week I'll actually be talking about our R4 system, and that's our foundational system that we build all of our client strategies, including our own strategies on those. But reputation is the foundational piece of that. So if you have any questions throughout, just go ahead and type them into the chat box. I might not stop while I'm going through a particular slide, but at the end of each slide I'll look over there, see if there's any comments, suggestions, or questions on a particular slide, and then obviously we'll leave some time at the end as well. This was about 15 minutes or so before. It's probably going to be somewhere around that 20 or 30 minutes. So, okay, so this is Susie's Bakery, and it was obviously, like I said, a fictitious bakery that we did for this presentation from Dallas. So the first thing we started out with was Susie wanted to be top of mind, so she did display advertising, which is also called banner advertising, and it's a passive form, and it's branding yourself and keeping yourself top of mind for all the people who might be looking for your services. So these are this is a popular website here, Martha Stewart, and it would be in that niche, if you will, of Susie's Bakery. So Susie would like to be in front of people who are on Martha Stewart's because they might be searching for wedding information, and she does wedding cakes. Banner ads or display ads are passive because people might not actually be looking for that. They might be on another website right now. Let's just say they were on ESPN. Now, Susie's Bakery might not be a good one for ESPN, but if they were on ESPN, they might not be looking for some other sports memorabilia. But if they see it, they might be interested in it. If at the very least they're going to see the things that are going to make you stick in their mind. They're going to see your logos, your colors, testimonials if you have them, pictures. Consciously or subconsciously, we see these ads every day. You see them anytime you surf the web on any of these major websites, CNN, NBC, ABC, Martha Stewart. Go look at any of those websites and you'll see banners across the top and banners down the right hand side and sometimes even on the bottom. It's a lot how those websites actually pay for themselves. They actually are able to offer you free information because they're actually getting dollars, advertising dollars from these particular things. So to be able to get on a major website like Martha Stewart or ESPN or weather.com would cost thousands upon thousands a month just to be able to get them onto that site. But recently it's kind of been opened up a little bit, and marketers like myself have banded together to be able to group and offer some of these ads in a local market sense. Susie's Bakery is based in Dallas. She would not want this display ad in California. She's not going to ship a wedding cake to California. So in order to be most effective for her dollars, she wants to be in her geographical location, and then on top of that she would like to be on websites that actually make a little bit more sense for whatever product or service, in her case bakery goods, or very specifically weddings is what she was actually going after. So banner ads are virtual billboards. They are a piece of real estate on a website, and they do cost money, but they're different than the pay-per-click, which we'll get over in a moment. They're actually paid by impression, and an impression is when anytime that banner ad shows up. So when this website loads, some banners will come up, some ads. That will count as one impression. And they can go very cheap, 2 cents, 1 cent, or even a half a cent per impression. So whether someone looked at it or not, you're going to pay for those impressions, and you buy them in blocks of impressions. So some companies like Subway might buy 1 million impressions or 2 million impressions on ESPN, for example, for a particular day. Once those number of impressions are exhausted, and that could be within the first couple hours if it's a heavy day on that website, but once those are exhausted, the network of banners, it's not ESPN necessarily that's out there shopping their banners. There's a network of banner advertisers called media buyers that will go out and reshop that real time in a bidding process to see who wants to pick up the remaining number of impressions for that day. So let's just say Subway picked up 2 million, and 3/4 of the day those 2 million were up. They're going to stop showing Subway's ad, and they're going to start showing other people's ads. and it's on the bidding system. So if someone bids 2 cents per impression, their ad will show up more frequently than someone who only bids a penny and a half or 1 cent per impression. So they are the same as TV and a regular billboard. At a regular billboard, if you're driving down the street, people see your advertising, consciously or subconsciously again, but you don't really know if somebody is actually looking at it. In here, there's some technology that we have and other people use as well to know when somebody's hovered over your ad. Now, as many of you probably know, a lot of us read by moving our mouse around. You can probably see my mouse if I'm over here reading about Martha Stewart. You're moving that mouse around where your eyes are going. So we can figure out if someone's hovered, because that would be brand recognition. And then you can also click through on here, where on a regular billboard on the street, you got to remember, you got to have a catchy phrase, a phone number, a catchy website, something that can remind those people when they get to a place where they can stop, they can go out, Google you, and go figure you out. Or if you have a really catchy phone number, they can dial you right there in the car. All right. Any questions on that? Again, just shoot them in there, and we got a couple more slides here on advertising. So let's just keep moving. So I already mentioned billboards, top of mind. A lot of marketing books and other marketing professions, not many people buy on the first time they visit your website, first time they walk in your store. It's the ones that follow up that make all the money. All the salespeople who make that second, third, fourth phone call, they're the ones who follow up. Banner ads are a great way of doing that virtual follow-up. Constantly putting your brand in front of them, you'll be top of mind. So in this example, if you weren't necessarily looking for a wedding cake today, maybe you're going to look for a wedding cake in 6 months. But if you saw Susie's Bakery's ads for the next 6 months, you're going to at least check out her website. And then here's kind of a thing I just put in there: branding. Of course, it's all about branding. It's the logos, it's the colors, it's the phone number if you have a catchy phone number, and obviously be able to click on that link and be able to move forward and go to the website and check it out. So in the story frame, this is where Jane, who was out there on the website, clicked through and saw Susie's Bakery's website. And then we kind of told a little story about, like most people, you might be out surfing the web, digging deep in there, and then you get distracted in some way. So in this case, Jane was distracted by a phone call from her mother because Aunt Martha found out about her wedding engagement on Facebook instead of a personal phone call. So the truth of the matter is, we all get distracted. We either get distracted by other things online, we get distracted by the kids, the dog, the phone, a text message coming in. As an online marketer and as a company that's trying to do business online, you should be very aware that people are very distracted when they're online. Ads popping up, we just talked about, emails coming in, text messages. You need to keep people's attention. And if you can't keep their attention, you need to be able to keep marketing to them. And that was the next piece that we talked about here with what Susie did. And it's on the idea of what's called remarketing or retargeting. And again, this is a passive form of advertising. So in this example, now Jane was out on WebMD, looking for some health and beauty tips for her upcoming wedding, and Susie's ad is there again. Now, Susie's ad might not have shown up on WebMD if Jane wasn't there. And the reason it's following Jane is because Susie's implemented retargeting on her website. And retargeting and remarketing is the following around of a potential client after they have visited your website. So every time you visit someone's website, what is called a cookie is placed into your browsing history. And you may or may not know this, so I'll kind of just explain it a little bit. But a cookie is just a little bit of information that's stored in your browser's history. It can't get into your other personal computers, but it allows that website's webmaster to know when you come back. So sometimes we track to say, okay, how many times did a person come back? How many new visits did we get throughout the month? So if you ever looked at your Google Analytics, you'll see repeat visitors and new visitors. So when you're trying to grow an online business, you want to see new visitors coming in, but you also want to see those repeat visitors coming back, because that means they're interested in what you might have to show. I'll go over some questions here in a minute. I see some questions coming in. With the remarketing piece, Susie was able to put this piece of code on her website, which then went on to Jane's machine. So then Susie's ads are more likely to show up on these major websites, not only just with Susie's banner ads, but maybe she also set up Google's remarketing. They also have remarketing built into their Adwords campaign, which we're going to go over here in a little bit, PPC, pay-per-click, but they also have remarketing in there. So even not on the major websites, but if you've ever noticed, you've been on a smaller website, maybe a blog, and you've seen ads over on the right-hand side or across the top, and they're Google ads. That's called AdSense, and that's the display network. So Google has two different networks. They have the search network, which is on google.com, and then they have the display network. This, what I'm showing you here, is a completely different network. It's outside of Google. It's media buying. There's a whole network. Many different advertisers can get into there. But in this example here, we were showing that Susie was using her display ads and doing remarketing. So after Jane visited her website, she would more frequently see Susie's ads all over the place. And that, again, is great for things like reminding your audience who you were. Maybe they were distracted when they went on your website. Maybe they looked at your website and they weren't really terribly interested. Maybe you didn't have a super compelling 3-second kind of attention grabber. So you're still reminding them, come back, this is who we are. Again, it's the virtual billboard. It's like that person that drove up and down the street 15 times. They saw your ad 15 times. Top of mind, we mentioned that on the previous slide, that you need to touch people multiple times before they're going to come and buy, especially if your price point is higher or if competition is very great. If competition is great, they're going to go out, they're going to be shopping your competition. How great would it be that they see your ad everywhere and not your competitor's ad? And then obviously branding. So let me take a look here at some of the questions and see if we have any questions on this particular topic. Question coming in here, can I designate which websites I want to be on? Great question. Yes and no. Yes, if you want to pay the extreme amount of money and you want to say, I want to be on WebMD, sure, you can go through a media buyer and go purchase a certain number of impressions on WebMD. The answer is no if you want to be down in that lower 1 cent to 2 cent per impression, and you go into what's called advertising network, and they have thousands of websites that they'll display on, but they're going to display on popular websites like WebMD is a big one, and I'll show a list here maybe at the end if we have some time of some about.com, weather.com, Martha Stewart, websites that you've heard of, but also websites maybe you've never heard of, but they get a lot of traffic. So these sites only want to be where advertisers are going to feel like they're getting their biggest bang for their buck. Now, this is not an ROI thing. You're not going to say, oh, I displayed my ad 100,000 times and I got 100 clicks. I don't think of display advertising as an ROI, return on investment, from the traditional standpoint. I paid this much, I got this much traffic, turned in this much conversions. It's more on the branding side of things. And branding is a very hard thing to put a price tag on to say, how much did I make from my brand? Ask Coca-Cola how much their brand costs, and I bet there's no number that they'll put on that, because it's the brand. The same thing with Nike and with Apple. They've built a brand that exceeds any amount of money that somebody probably could pay for it. Now, that would be great if all of us local marketers could do that, local businesses, and you can in your local marketplace. So to answer that question, you can't designate which ones, but you can narrow it down through some targeting. For example, we do geographic, right? So you definitely don't want to be running a Dallas ad in California. So that's first and foremost. Typically between 15, 25, 50, or 75 miles from any particular zip code, you can target market in that. Target a state. I live in the state of Texas, so if you wanted to target, you had a product or a service that you serviced all of Texas, you can display to only people that are looking at these websites that are while they're in Texas. And that's a kind of another follow-up there, is it's where the people are surfing from. So someone's in a hotel, it's going to show up in Texas. So if you're marketing to travelers, you could still be in front of people, maybe a restaurant or whatever, to get these people to come in who are out-of-town visitors. So you got the geo-targeting, and then you have audience groups. So you have demographic, interests, and then intent. So demographics would be how old are they, high income, income, even down to maybe sometimes the nationality you can figure out. Are they married, man or woman, pet owners, renters? And you might say, how do they know all this information? And remember that cookie that I talked about? Based on your browsing history, websites can determine, and using algorithms can kind of figure out who you are. Now some websites like Facebook know exactly who you are. You tell them who you are, you give them that you're married and you're male and you're this age and this is how much money you make, and you fill out that whole profile, and they know exactly how much money you make and who you are. But other websites like WebMD, if you've never logged in, how would an advertiser know who you are? And it's all based on that browsing history. Have you gone out to visit websites like BMW and Mercedes, and do you spend time on what would be deemed as higher education websites? And then they might say, okay, this must be a highly educated person. Do you spend a lot of time watching YouTube videos? They might say you must be interested in videos, and then maybe even what type of videos do you watch? So you got all that information, and then interests are in around that same long lines. Are you a food lover? Are you a gamer? Do you like photography? Are you a techie, sports fan? Again, that browsing history says a lot about you. And then the intent, and you can get down to things like people who are seeking real estate or wanting to buy a car. If you visited a BMW website and a Mercedes website, and you're a car dealer, you might want to advertise to that person because they're most likely in the market to buy a car. And if you're visiting those sites, you're in the high-end cars. So maybe you're a Lexus dealer and you want to say, I want to target everybody who's maybe visited a BMW website. Now that's not saying all of your ads are going to show there. All these things kind of have a cascading effect. They always start with geography, and then they go down and they try to narrow it down. But if they don't know anything about you, you're at least going to be in that same geographic area, and then they're also going to try to place you on websites that are relevant to your niche. So in this example, it's WebMD, health and beauty, weddings, right? Again, like what I said before, she wouldn't want to be on ESPN, right? That's a predominantly male-dominated, and it just probably wouldn't be good for her. Let's see here. The cost, I kind of mentioned that a little bit, somewhere between half a cent to 2 cents per impression, and they need to usually buy packages. 100,000 impressions is kind of the typical minimum, all the way up to 200, 400, half a million to 1 million impressions. Small businesses in smaller towns are probably going to stick down in that 100,000 impressions. Let's see, I'll take one more here and then we're going to move on. How long will it follow me around? Oh, good question. So talked about the remarketing. So remarketing from Google's side, because we don't really know, display ads will follow you around for an exhaustive period of time, and then either that person will stop advertising and they'll stop showing up, or maybe you won't engage with it, and then the advertising network is smart enough to say, okay, there hasn't been any clicks, hasn't been any hovers, probably not interested, let's show them something else, because again, they want clicks. But Google will allow you to be followed around for 540 days. Yes, 540 days is the maximum that somebody can follow you around on the Google's remarketing. So if you see a lot of ads, it's could be that long. The default is actually only 30 days. So unless you have an active marketer who knows how to go change that to be 540 days, most people don't even set up remarketing and retargeting. So if you are handling your own AdWords, I highly suggest, very highly suggest, go research remarketing or retargeting. You know, those two words are used interchangeably. But go look how to put that up. It's very easy to set up and very, very high conversions rates. I was reading some things before the event. Some companies have seen 40 to 60% conversion increases because, again, you're following them around. You're reminding your audience. You're doing that multiple touches. So great questions. Let's keep moving here. Let me take a drink real quick. Okay, so as the story moves along, a few months later, Jane was actually actively now looking for a wedding cake. So she's already picked out everything else, but she needs a wedding cake. So this is more on the active side. So she has two choices. She remembers Susie's Bakery, right? Susie's been following her around for the last whatever number of months. She remembers that. She can Google Susie's Bakery, and Susie is the only baker in Dallas, so she would come up. But if Jane didn't really want to maybe just go right to Susie, she wanted to do some other things, she would go out to Google. That's where over 70% of people go. It's on Google Search Network, and she might type in bakery or Bakery Dallas, Texas. Now I had to put in Bakery Dallas, Texas because I'm in Bryan, College Station. But if you were in, like if I search bakery here, I would be pulled up on a local search of bakeries that are near me. See how it says bakeries near Dallas, Texas? So Google knows based off IP address, or if you're in your phone, based off triangulation of what's around you, and they're going to serve up results. Over 50% of the searches, according to Google, are for local intent. So over the last couple of years, they've completely revamped their algorithm to be that local intent, to figure out which words are more likely to be that's you want something local. If you're searching bakery, you don't really want a bakery. If you're in Dallas, you don't want a bakery that's in California. You want a bakery that's in Dallas. So Google has their whole list of different terms that people are probably looking for local, and they're going to serve up those local results. So in this example here, Jane receives a couple different pieces of information here, and I want to kind of touch on each one of them because a lot of people are not really sure what they're seeing on the search results page. So I want to just take a brief moment. So what I have highlighted here with the red arrow, with the red arrow is pointing to, is the pay-per-click. It's a little bit lightly shaded. Google's constantly changing and trying different things. Sometimes you see the word ad with the yellow. Sometimes you see it. This one, it's kind of hard to see in the screenshot, but it's kind of like a lightish peachish background to kind of show your eyes there. So it's here, and then down the right hand side, that's typically where Google puts their ads. And then the organic side of things. Organic is everything below the ads. Everything that's kind of over here in the bottom left corner of the screen is the organic side of things. And there's pointing to one there. The local listing, often referred to as the map pack. Now in this case, for a bakery, Google has decided to show it in what they've termed their carousel. And that's obviously at the top. You can see that. It's actually before all paid ads and before number one. They are showing those across top. There's 20 of them, and they're showing different things like the reviews, images, location, maps, all trying to get to be more relevant. Google's audience and their target market is you, the searcher. It's not the business owner, it's not the marketer, it's the user. They want to be relevant to the user. So all the changes that they make are towards providing more value to the searcher. So they're showing reviews right here. You can see, you might not be able to see that. It says 18 reviews, 13 reviews. The star rating, 5-star rating. Everybody knows what 5 stars mean. A while back, Google bought Designate and was using their 30-point Designate system, and nobody knew what that meant. So they dropped the Designate system and they went back to the star rating, because everybody knows a 3-star restaurant versus a 5-star restaurant. Same thing with hotels. You know that the 5 stars are better. So they show those there. You can see that they show them down here in the organic listings, and they also show them in the paid listings. So if you pay Google, they will also possibly show your rating as well. So you can pay them, and if you have a bad rating, they'll still show that as well. So let me just check here, make sure we have any questions. I'll get to that one here in a moment. So I'm gonna keep moving here on on to the next one. So Susie, in this case, she dominates. She's in the local listing, she's in the pay-per-click, and she's in organically as well. So I'm going to go into each of these a little bit deeper. So here's pay-per-click, and pay-per-click, or referred to as PPC, is any form of advertising that you pay for in the results. So Google is the biggest one, and their product is Google Adwords. But Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter even starting to do some stuff. Pinterest is starting to think about it and do it. Lots of advertising. Bing, which is Microsoft, and Yahoo, they all do advertising. But if you're going to do pay-per-click, most people default and at least start with Google and AdWords. And it's based on a bidding system, just like the display ads. However, this one is pay-per-click, PPC. You only pay when somebody clicks on it. So it's a different mentality than the display ads. Display ads is per impression. You're just trying to get your brand out there, trying to be in front of people. And with pay-per-click, you know that someone's actively searching for it, and you're raising your hand and telling Google that you're willing to pay whatever. In this example, let's say $2 for that ad. Maybe Kroger in this example here said, I'm willing to pay $2 for the term bakery in Dallas, Texas. So what that means is this ad will continue to show until somebody clicks on it and exhausts whatever Kroger's budget was. Very important, if you're going to do this, make sure you set a daily budget. Don't just set a monthly budget. A lot of people make that mistake, or even a lifetime budget. Set a daily budget. So if you're going to spend $100, you wouldn't want Google to show your ad and then you blow your $100 in the first day, right? So maybe you break that up into $3, $2, whatever you figure out. But you got to make it relevant. If it's $2 per click, you don't want to say your max budget is $5, right? You're going to get 2 clicks, 2.5 clicks, and you're going to be done for the day. So some words are very expensive. So one of the questions is, how do I know how much my keyword would be? Inside the Google AdWords tool, as you start doing some research, Google, who wants to spend your money for you, will tell you exactly how much the bidding process averages, and then it's up to you. Do you want to bid above that? Do you want to bid towards the top? Or do you want to be at the bottom and just say, hey, I want to get a couple clicks a day? So in this example here, if Susie wanted to outbid Kroger, and Kroger was willing to do $2, which by the way, you don't know how much Kroger's really bidding. Google's giving you their average, so it's not really a blind bid. It's more they're just suggesting to you what it should be. But if you set out to be $2.25, then you would actually be first, right underneath the carousel here on top, right in front of Kroger. So that whole thing happens automatically with Google. You set up your daily budget. They'll tell you what your average cost per clicks. Some of them can range from 10 cents to $1, $15, $30. If you're an attorney, you know that you make a lot of money per client. Some of those attorneys have to pay $50, $60, $70 per click. Now this is not a conversion, this is a click to your website. So it could be an accidental click. You still have to pay that. So it's a very active, but you have to have a highly converting website and a budget to be able to do that. But if people ask me, hey, how do I get on Google the first day? How do I want to be on page 1? This is the way you do it. You pay. As soon as you pay enough, you'll be right on there. So moving along, the next one is called the organic. So this is that same search result, just kind of blown up a little bit. So here was that Kroger pay-per-click up here, and the carousel would have been up towards the top. So search engine results page, sometimes you'll see it as abbreviated SERP, and it's also the organic ranking. This ranking here on the lower left side of the screen, that's Google's algorithm. When people think about Google and their ability to rank, this is what they're talking about. How does Google know that Tart Bakery should be there, and then Yelp should be second, and then another Yelp, and then Society? That's all in their algorithm. I've heard as high as 900 different pieces go into Google's algorithm. The truth of the matter is nobody knows. So as a marketer myself and many other marketers, we look at a whole lot of websites and what all those websites are doing to try to come up with what are the best practices. And then Google's constantly changing. They made a major change last year. You may have heard of some of those, Panda and Penguin, those funny names. Those are Google search engine algorithm changes, and some of them are bigger than other ones. Hummingbird was a fairly large one, but didn't really affect rankings. It affected more how search results might be figured out. But Panda and Penguin definitely attacked what is termed as spammy or black hat marketing companies who were trying to scam the system with maybe bad backlinks, which are links to your website. So don't do spammy things. Just do, Google comes out and basically says if you put up a website and put high relevant content that changes a lot, consistently changing, you're going to be ranked for those terms. Now that's not necessarily true, because a lot of other people are still doing a lot of those other tactics that we know work, like backlinking or getting reviews or guest posting or talking about your website on other websites. So if you're working with a marketing company, a traffic generation company, use the word search engine optimization before. It's not really optimizing the search engine anymore. Now it's more about traffic. If you're using a traffic generation company, just make sure that they're using the best practices. And if they don't tell you how they do things, you might want to question if you're going to work with them. So in the example here with Susie, she was constantly putting a blog is on her website. Hopefully everybody knows what that is. If you don't, Google it. But she was constantly updating her blog with very relevant content to weddings and cakes, and so Google rewarded her and put her at the top of the list here. Pointing here to the reviews, notice this company here has a 4.5 star rating with 211 reviews. So a lot of people want to say, oh, I want to be number one, I want to be number one. Well, number one might not matter, because Google's constantly doing things to break up your vision and try to get you to act. So in this case, you might not click on this tart bakery because it's at the top, because you might see these stars, say, ooh, 4.5 stars, so what's this one? Well, now number 2 just got more clicks. You might have seen the picture of a person that wrote an article. That's called Google authorship. I'll do a whole another presentation on setting up authorship and publishership. But that's how you get that little nice Photoshop headshot on there. Again, if that was down here with a picture, you might click on that one, and then you might come down to number 4. So it used to be number 1, got about 60% of the clicks. I haven't seen Google re-update those numbers, but I know people click on these other ones because I have clients that are not number 1 that are getting a lot of traffic, and they might be number 3 or 4 because they have reviews or they have the authorship tag. So let me see, make sure there's no questions on that one, and then let's move on to, because we're getting close to the end here, about 15 minutes, so that's why I'm trying to answer questions along the way. So here is the local listing, and I'm going to go through 2 different sections of here. This one is the carousel. In another slide, I'll show you what you're probably used to seeing in the map pack. Google's introduced this carousel, I think it was last year sometime, for hotels, restaurants, entertainment, some sports. Like if you Google Dallas Cowboys roster, you would probably get, depending on where you're at, all the individuals across the front here. Tony Romo first, probably, right? So again, they rank those guys, but they might get some stats underneath there. So Google, again, trying to make it very relevant to the user and very easy. You don't have to scroll, right? I mean, right here you're seeing 8, 10 of them across. Seeing the reviews in a single glance, maybe even seeing some nice high quality photos. Do you want to go visit this bakery here? This one's got a nice Superman cake. These guys over here, they don't really have anything. So one of the golden nuggets here that I pointed out was this picture. As far as I can tell, is still the same thing. Comes from your Google Plus, and it's the first photo that was uploaded. And at the time of this recording, you could not change that first photo. So whatever that first photo was, that would show up here. No photos, and you get the default map. Again, nice high quality photo. Do yourself a favor, go out there, claim your Google Plus listing. There's already one out there, I can promise. If you have a location, Google already has built one for you. You might even have some reviews out there. And go get a nice picture of the front of your building, a picture of your logo, whatever your business is, and go upload at least one high quality review. And while you're out there, check your reviews. You might already actually have some. And then they're pointing out to the reviews again. So a couple of things to be aware of is what's referred to as your NAP, your name, address, and phone number. That's where the local listings are coming from. How does Google know that you're in Dallas? Because you're telling them that. You're putting that in that local listing. You're putting that in not only in Google's, but you're putting that in all the other major directories. There are thousands of major directories out there. Yellow Pages, Bing, Yelp, City Search, Merchant Circle. Those are just a few of them. Then there's a ton of mobile directories. The important thing is your name, address, and phone number must be consistent across all those. Google looks for consistency. If it's a little bit different, if you put freeway instead of FWY, that's different. Remember, it's a piece of software that's looking at these things. You got to make them identical all the way down to your website. You want to make sure that even your phone number on there, a lot of people want to use tracking numbers. We used to use them. A lot of marketers are saying, hey, if you don't use a tracking number, you actually can rank a little bit faster in the local listings, because now your phone number matches the same phone number that's in Google's directory listing. So we've started to move away from using some of those tracking phone numbers on our clients' websites, just because you want that NAP to be consistent. And then make sure it stands out. Videos, put every picture, that as many pictures as these directories will allow you. Some 2 or 3, some 10, 15, 20 pictures. Put as many as you can put out there. High quality, that actually show what you do and show your brand. Videos, if they allow you, some of them do. Categories, all of them allow at least one category, some allow up to 10. Fill out as many categories as you possibly can. Again, this is what's going to be used to determine for your search rankings. And then the most important piece on these things is the reviews. This is where your clients, customers, or patients will go to review you. Whether you've claimed it or not, there's a spot out there. I guarantee right now, if your business, you have a brick and mortar out on a Merchant Circle, you are sitting out there and people can go post a review on Merchant Circle about you. So at least if you claim them, then you can monitor these and then respond to bad reviews, and then look at the positive ones too. So again, in a couple of weeks here, I'm going to go over a whole big presentation, 1-hour presentation on the importance of reputation and reputation marketing. So here is the other way that you're probably used to seeing most search results end up this way. This was the way Google first started doing the local listing or map pack. And there's 7 of them here. And they don't show up all the time down here. This is actually the 4th one. So you can see there's a whole bunch of ads. So I actually had to search for plumbers, since the previous one, bakeries, was showing the carousel. So here's plumbers in Dallas. You can see the ads up on the top, ads on the right, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and then starts the map pack. So 5 on down here is the map pack, what I have out in red. And you can see the addresses. So you ask a lot of people, which ones would you click on? Most people say they don't click on ads, but Google's a billion-dollar company, so somebody does. But even if you didn't click on the ads, wouldn't you might skip over these and maybe click on this one here because it's got some reviews, but you're looking for a local plumber, right? This BBB one, this might be on the other side of Dallas. It might not even be anywhere close to your location. So you want to find a local plumber, so that's why Google puts these here. So if you're ranked A, A through G here, if you're ranked A, you might get a lot of clicks even though Google's displaying this as number 4. So important thing here is once you get into the listing, then you want to move your way up and try to get up to A. This is this is Google's listing. Your Google, they keep changing the name. Google Plus Local, I think, is what they have settled on now. But it's also dependent on your website. You'll notice Google knows what the website is for every one of these things. So you have to have a very optimized website as well as optimizing here. But this pack can be number 1, it could be number 2, it could be number 6 or 7. I've seen it down towards the bottom if there's a lot more other relevant websites. I could say 99.9% of the time they're always together. And the reason I put that 0.1 because I have seen one website that actually the A was outside of the group. It was number 1. There was something at position 2, and then B through G was actually starting at 3. Very odd. I haven't seen it very often. but it does happen. But the most important thing is get into the map pack first, because now you're on page 1, right? And page 1 is where all the traffic happens. And the last thing here that Susie did was her 5-star rating. She not only just sat back and just said, "Oh, I hope people go review me." She went out and actively marketed and tried to get those rankings and those reviews. She went to her best customers and pointed them to the right website. This is the thing. If you just tell someone to go, "Hey, go give me a great review on Google or on Yelp," nobody's going to do that for you. How do they know where to go? Most people have no idea how to go out to Yelp and go find your business. Send them an email, send them a postcard, give them a business card with the website address right on it. The best thing is if they can, scan a QR code or type in a short little address and send them right to Yelp. Boom, right to your page. Then maybe you'll get people to actually do that. But you're gonna have to ask a lot, right? And you're gonna have to follow up. Fortunes in the follow up here, just like when you're trying to sell your product or your service. So there's been a couple studies, and again, I'm going to go over this in great detail in its own presentation here in a couple weeks. But there's been a lot of studies that people do not trust reviews unless there's 6 to 10 5-star reviews. Now, you might have a 4.9, 4.8, but the importance is 6 to 10. And that's 6 to 10 per entity wherever they're looking at. If they're on Google, 6 to 10 on Google. If they're on Yelp, 6 to 10 on Yelp. City Search, Merchant Circle. So you need a lot of reviews. Some businesses, like restaurants, it's easier to get reviews than others. Other businesses, higher end businesses, roofers, you don't do as many jobs or sell as many services throughout that year, so it's a little bit harder. So you have to work even harder to get these. Now here's the thing with reviews. It's a double-edged sword. Bad reviews can go out there, but we all know who's more likely, someone who's happy or someone who's irritated. Who's the more likely to go seek you out on Yelp because you didn't give them the URL, right? They don't need the URL. They'll go find you if they're angry enough. They'll go put it out on social media. That's why it's so important to go out there and actively seek out these reviews, because if in a sea of 5-star ratings, a 1-star rating, it'll be a small little blip. All right, let me check, see if there's any other questions here. Okay, good question. How can I remove a bad review? You can't. You can try to argue with Google. You can try to argue with Yelp and tell them it's fake. I've heard that a lot. Oh, my competition's going to put out there, that's not even a real review. All of these websites have algorithms that they try to figure out, is it a fake review or is it a real review? And unfortunately, a lot of good reviews get kicked off during that process because it's just a computer trying to figure this out based on a lot of factors. You can't remove the bad review. What you can do is if you have bad reviews out there currently, say you might have a 2-star rating, a 3-star rating, you need to work your butt off and go get 5-star ratings and push that down. The more you put on top of it, the farther it's going to be pushed down. Just like if there was a scam, blah blah, whatever your name is, space scam or space bad review in a Google search. The only way to push that down and get that off of Google's rankings is to push it down, put more above it. That's why if you do not have a bad review today, thank your lucky stars, because if you haven't been doing this, you could have one. But if you do, go get a ton of 5-star ratings, push it down. And if you don't have one, go get a ton, so when that bad one comes in, we know as business owners, there's some people you're just never going to be able to please. So you're just going to, make someone mad, even if they had a bad day. But again, in the sea of 5-star ratings, a 1-star rating is not going to matter. So please go out there and do that today. We're getting close here, so this is back just to the recap. I want to bring up this thing here to check to see, make sure there's no more final questions. But we went through some passive ways: display advertising, which are the virtual billboards; retargeting and marketing to follow your audience around that multiple touches. You got to keep touching them every time you can get in front of your audience. Just like if someone was making 7 phone calls to the same person, more likely to do business with you. From the active side of things, you can do pay-per-click, Google AdWords, is the biggest one. That's paid. Want to be on page 1 tomorrow? People who want to know, I want something quick and I want something right now, that's the only way to do it. Go pay. Organic, which is the next one down, that's unique and relevant content over a period of time, right? How long? Who knows? It's Google's algorithm. Nobody knows, even the people who work at Google. But I can promise you, if you put a website up tomorrow, it's not going to be on page 1 if you don't take specific actions over time to get it there. But you can go do pay-per-click, right? And then the optimized local listings. Make sure that your name, address, phone number, your NAP is consistent across all of them, and go out and claim all those directories and then monitor those for your review, right? You want to know if people are saying bad things about you. Could be competitors, but you need to know that. So that is the presentation coming up on the hour here that we had allocated. So I want to be very aware and conscious of your time. I hope I explained it a little bit deeper. Those of you that were at the event know that I had got kind of fast and told the story. I hopefully this thing recorded. I had 2 different recordings, but go to webinar sometimes is a little finicky. But I have 2 different recordings. So whatever recorded or how it recorded, I will send out a recording. I also have this posted somewhere, probably on my website, where people can go back and review it. And if you're listening to this because you couldn't make it, then you obviously found the recording. So just a reminder, keep an eye out in your inbox. Today or tomorrow, we'll be sending out an invitation, a webinar invitation on a weekly basis. Again, I'm going to try to record all those as well, but you never know if it's going to get recorded or not. I will, on a weekly basis, I'll try to tell you what the discussion is going to be about. Some of you might not be interested in Facebook or LinkedIn, so you can kind of come in and go as you please, and then there will also be the recordings that are there. So with that, I bid you a good day, and let's all get back to business and selling, because that's when we make the most money there. So thank you again for showing up. Thank you for all those that attended the Monsters of Marketing event last week on March 4th. We raised a lot of money for Habitat for Humanity here in Bryan, College Station, so it was a great event. We're hoping to put on more of those. So we'd love to get your feedback. We got a lot of great feedback from the people who were there. We had a great attendance and turnout, and look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.